Yo, what's up guys, I'm Charius and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth guide on the new bosses, the Rex Matriarch, and how to kill them effectively and without using any food. This guide will be aimed at mid-level players, but we'll have some tips for high-level players as well, so I hope you enjoy it and let's get straight into it. The Rex Matriarchs are 3 new dinosaur bosses similar to dagannoth kings. There's one for each style, and in order to kill them effectively, you have to use the style that they're weak against. They have very high defense, so anything you can bring that will increase your accuracy is very worth it here. These are a bit higher level than the dagannoth kings, so it's not really worth it to kill them all 3 at a time. Instead, you want to kill them 1 at a time. This is because you can't kill them all by the time the first one you killed respawns. And you don't want to clutter up your inventory with all the weapon switches and armor switches you have to bring in order to tri-breed these. Also, by killing 1 at a time, you can take advantage of using a berserker aura in order to get faster kills. If you're really high level and have really good gear, at most I would recommend you kill 2 at a time if you can kill them extremely quickly. If you're interested in seeing their drops, I did make a video on that too, so you can click on the top right of your screen to go see that right now. As always, let's start by taking a look at the requirements. For these 3 bosses, I would recommend at least level 80 plus combat stats, at least tier 70 armor, and tier 80 plus weapons. This isn't to say that you can't kill these with anything lower than this, but because of the extremely high defense and the really hard hitting mechanics, I would recommend having at least these things. I also always recommend having the basic mid to high tier PVM unlocks like curses and overloads, and I talk a lot more about that in another video that you can go by clicking on the top right of your screen right now. The first boss we're going to be looking at here is Orikalka, and this is the melee Rex. You want to kill her with magic and more specifically fire spells, since that's what she's weak to. Like I said before a couple of times, these have extremely high defense and any accuracy that you can get is going to be really good, so using fire spells is very worth it. This is by far the easiest boss of them all if you deal with her correctly. Now let's take a look at her mechanics, starting with the Frost Storm. Orikalka will hit you with a high damage magic attack and give you the Frostbite effect. The Frostbite effect increases your global cooldown and drains your run energy. It also lasts for 30 seconds. You can clear it by making use of the next mechanic that I'm going to show you, and I'm also going to show you a way to avoid it altogether. For her second mechanic, she smashes the ground with her tail and spawns 3 fissures around her. Standing in these will deal rapid and high damage melee hits. They will grant plus 10% adrenaline per second for 5 seconds for each hit taken, and they will also clear the Frostbite effect. If you're gonna stand in one of these, I highly recommend using Devotion and Melee Prayer. The attack rotation for Orikalka is as follows. It goes 3 auto attacks, then a Frost Storm, an auto attack, then a magic attack, then the eruptions, 3 auto attacks, eruptions again, 1 final auto attack, a magic attack, and then it starts over. You don't have to worry much about this one because I'm going to show you a method to skip it altogether. Next up, we have the loadout for Orikalka. You want to bring the best magic gear that you have, including an Inquisitive Staff if you do have that, since that is best in slot here. Also, if you have Cinderbane gloves, these bosses are all poisonable, so these will be useful here. For my inventory, I have my regular potions, a weapon poison plus, since again these guys are poisonable. A Wonder Orb switch along with some nature runes are extremely useful here, and I'll explain why in just a second. Also some magic notepaper for the drops, some adrenaline potions, a planet feet switch, just your usual PVM stuff. Finally, for a familiar, you can either bring a yak to have some extra food, but you won't need it here, or a nice nihil for the extra accuracy and damage. Now let's talk about the strategy we're going to be using here. Entangle is a magic spell that requires 79 magic, and it will bind your target for 24 seconds. This spell will allow you to keep Orikalka in place while you DPS her down and avoid all of her mechanics. Sticky bombs are a potion bomb that you can buy on the GE, and they will stun your target for 6 seconds. 6 seconds is of course not long enough for you to DPS the boss down, but it'll give you some time in case you splash your entangle and you have to use it again. Finally, you're going to be soul splitting throughout the whole kill. Finally, for Orikalka, let's take a look at the full kill and the method I use. I start by using Entangle right away, running back a little bit, then using Sunshine and Vulnerability. At this point, I have 24 seconds to do as much DPS as I possibly can before it starts moving. So that's exactly what I do, use my thresholds in my Sunshine. After the 24 seconds are up, Orikalka is going to start walking towards me and I'm going to try to entangle again. In this case, I splash my entangle, so I start to run away so that she doesn't get to me and then entangle again. This is where Wonder Orb is really useful, since it allows you to cast the spell after using an ability 2 ticks quicker than using a staff. I use that time to DPS, and when it starts moving again, I try to entangle. I actually splash again, so I keep moving farther away and then entangle once more and then finish it up. Remember, the Frost Storm is always on the 4th hit, so as long as Orikalka doesn't hit you 4 times, you're completely safe from the mechanic. Next up, we have Pthentraken, the Magic Rex. She's weak to arrows, and it's, in my opinion, the most skill-based boss of the three. In order to kill her effectively and with no food, you're gonna have to pay attention to the rotation, prayer flick, and use defensive abilities. The first of Pthentraken's mechanic is the converging lightning. She will spawn several cracks on the ground, followed by lightning that start at the edge of the crack and go towards the center. One of the cracks will always spawn underneath you, but the rest are random. If you get caught in the lightning, you'll receive fast and high damage magic hits, but it's easily avoidable by just moving out of the way. Pthentraken's second mechanic is the overcharge. The overcharge is indicated by a bar that appears above the player's head. Once this bar depletes, a 3x3 lightning will be placed wherever the player is standing. Standing in this 3x3 area will hit you for increasing typeless damage, starting with 300s when it's placed and upwards of 4000s a few seconds afterwards. Getting hit by this beam will also give you the overcharge effect, which will add a little bit of extra magic damage to every attack you do, and it will put Surge in a 1-second cooldown. The effect of the overcharge is so negligible, it's better to just set it down and move away. One auto attack after the converging lightning, Pthentraken will hit you with a range hit. Dealing properly with this hit is the key to being able to effectively kill this boss with no food. We'll talk more about how to deal with this range hit in a little bit. Her attack rotation is a little bit more important than Orikalka since you actually have to pay attention for their range hit. The rotation goes as follows: 3 magic attacks, then lightning conversion, then 1 auto attack and that range hit. Then you get the overcharge, 3 more magic attacks, lightning conversion, magic hit and range hit, and then it starts over. For your preset, this time you want to bring the best range gear that you have. If you have anything lower than tier 90s, I do recommend using a bow since arrows are their weakness. For your aura, you want to use Reckless for their extra accuracy and damage. And the inventory is pretty much the same as Orikalka, except this time we have range gear and a shield to be able to resonance that range hit. As for your familiar, you want to use a Beast of Burden if you're using food, or a Steel Titan for that DPS. Now let's talk about strategies. While killing Pthentraken, you want to pray magic while soul split flicking if you can. To deal with her mechanics, all you have to do is move out of the way, so pretty straightforward. As for the range hit, you really do want to be on the lookout for it. Remember, it's 1 auto attack after the converging lightning. Depending on how many range attacks you get throughout the kill, you want to resonance the first one, devotion and switch to deflect range for the second one, resonance the third one, debilitate and protect range for the fourth one, and repeat. By doing these, you guarantee you're going to use the least amount of food possible. Now let's take a look at a full Pthentraken kill. I'm going to start by using a couple abilities and using Death Swiftness right away. Do your usual DPS rotation, just DPS the boss down until you see those cracks on the ground. Once those cracks do appear, you just move out of the way and keep DPSing, looking out for that range hit. After that one magic hit, I'm going to switch to my shield and resonance and then wait for the overcharge. You want to try and place the overcharge outside of your Death Swiftness so that you can move away into the Death Swiftness again. After the overcharge, we're going to get another lightning, so we just move out of the way of that and use devotion right away so that we can both devotion the magic hit and switch to range prayer to devotion the range hit. This is a good example of a kill because I walked too close to the overcharge and I signed, so just an example of what not to do. But at this point we don't get any more range hits, so we don't have to worry about anything else. We just DPS the boss down until it dies. Finally, we have the third and final Rex, Rathis, the ranged Rex. She's weak to stab and is really easy if you can meet the DPS check, but if you can't, it's a little bit harder. The first of Rathis's mechanics is the Poison Bombardment. She will throw 2 poison orbs in the air, one of which will land wherever you are standing and the other one somewhere around her. If you get caught under one of these, you're gonna take a high range damage hit. It also leaves a 5x5 poison area on the ground. The second one of her mechanics is the melee attack. If you're in melee distance from Rathis when this happens, it'll only be a regular melee attack and is not very high hitting. But if you're not in melee distance, she will charge at you, dealing very high damage. The charge is very difficult to avoid, so it's just recommended to stay in melee distance. The third and final mechanic from Rathis is the Uber Heal. If she gets to this mechanic in her rotation and there are still poison pools on the floor, she will absorb them for 45,000 health each. You can avoid this by absorbing the poison yourself by standing on the pools. Absorbing the poison will deal poison damage that can be negated by the Venom Blood perk or using an anti-poison. It will also give you the corrosion debuff. This debuff will increase by 1 stack every time you absorb a bit of the pool. You will take 20% extra damage for every stack you have, and the stacks last for 10 seconds, but the timer renews every time you absorb a little bit more of the pool. The Rathis preset is pretty much the same as the other two, except this time you're using melee. Bring the best melee gear that you have, including the Pterosaur Maul, because that does work on Rathis and is the best in slot weapon. The only other thing to note here is the Vampirism Screamshot that can help you heal while doing damage with melee. Finally, for your familiars, you want to use a Beast of Burden if you need food, or a Reaper Demon if you want your DPS. You can avoid the Uber heal altogether by doing enough DPS, so bringing anything that will increase it will help you tons. Rathis' rotation is a little bit longer than the other two. You start with 3 ranged attacks, then the poison bombardment, an auto attack, then the melee attack, 5 auto range attacks, then another melee attack, another auto, the Uber heal, 2 more autos, a melee attack, and then 3 to 5 more autos before doing 1 more melee attack and then restarting. As you can see, you do have quite a bit of time before the Uber heal, but it still can be very difficult to kill the boss before that happens. As for the strategy, you can soul split for all of the kill, but make sure to move out of the way of the poison bombardment. If you are absorbing the pool, make sure you bring your Venom Blood or anti-poison, and only siphon the pool that is closest to Raksha, since that 40k heal is a lot better than getting the charge and dying to it. Now let's look at a full kill, starting with the one where I do meet the DPS check. I always start off with a Berserk, followed by a Barge, and then bleeding my Assault, using my Destroy, and all of that. When I see the poison bombs about to fall, I just move out of the way and keep DPSing. When my Berserk runs out, I just use my ZGS spec and pretty much use all basics to get back to full Adren and be able to start the next kill with Berserk as well. And that is the whole kill. That's why I say this boss is really easy if you can meet the DPS check. Now let's take a look at a kill where I don't meet the DPS check. I start the exact same way, just Berserking and barging in, just doing my regular DPS rotation. When I see the poison bombs come in, I move out of the way and then back in order to start absorbing them. I got my Venom Blood perk on, so the poison damage is pretty much negligible. I stand in one of the pools to absorb it completely and keep DPSing. This time I didn't use my ZGS spec, so the DPS is a little bit too low and it uber heals. Since I absorbed one of the pools completely, it only absorbed the other one and heals for 45k, so I just keep DPSing until I kill it. So as you can see, as long as you have a way to deal with the poison damage, this isn't too bad either. Anyways guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope this guide gets you killing the Rex Matriarchs. If you did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I put out a video every Saturday on the road to Golden Reaper, and this Saturday is gonna be about the Matriarchs. Other than that, you can click on screen now to go to my channel, a random video that YouTube will select for you, and the Road to Golden Reaper playlist, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.